All right. Hello, welcome back. Here is a video about investments and how to calculate your investment income, giving a variety of different factors. We're going to work through a series of questions here, slowly getting more and more difficult. But at the end of the day, there is just one equation that you will need to be familiar with to solve these problems. And I'll just write it here for you. Interest equals principal times interest rate times time. All right, there's a little bit more to that because the principal sometimes is hard to differentiate from other numbers. All right, and your interest rate, we always want it to be annual. And the time, again, we always want to be in years or annual. All right, that is our basic investment interest calculation. That's going to be used for part A here. There's a bit of a wordy section to part B where they're asking for the total value at maturation. We are going to call that our return on investment, ROI. And that is simply your interest that you calculate using PRT plus your principal, which is the initial amount that you invest. So between these two equations, you should be able to solve all the series questions that we're doing today. Let's start off here with A. All right. Robbie Rosario invested $2,675 into investment yielding 1.49% monthly. All right. For 6 years. That's a lot of information in one sentence. Let's break it down. First off, the initial amount he invested is always going to be his principal, P. Then, anytime you see an interest rate in an investment question, that's going to be your R or your RI. All right. But we want to divide it by 100 to turn it into a percent. All right. RI is 0.0149. And then I circled right behind it because this is really important. It's all caps and I circled it. It's got to be monthly. All right. Or it's given as monthly. I don't want monthly. I want annually. Okay. So that's monthly. I need to turn that into annually. All right. To do that, I need to multiply by 12. All right. That's because there's 12 months in a year. So my interest rate that I'm going to be using here is, let's just call it R, not RI. That's what I'm going to use in my equation. It's going to end up being 12 times as much as my monthly interest because I'm going to earn interest on this investment 12 times in the year. All right, so that's actually going to turn into 0.1788 or 17.88%. All right, and then the last thing is time, which is already years, which I'm happy with. So let's go ahead and solve A. A, my interest received at the end of the investment after the 6 years is equal to the principal times the interest rate times time. For me, the principal was $2,675. The interest rate I'm multiplying it by is the annual rate of 0.1789, and the time is 6 years. Multiply those three numbers in your calculator. Sorry, that should be 8. I misread it. Multiply them all together in your calculator, and we're going to end up with interest earned of, oh, that's a lot. That's a big number. $2,869.74. Let me just double check my math. I guess this is a pretty high yield account for a pretty long time. Yep. We are more than doubling our money in 6 years. Pays to invest risky sometimes. So that would be the interest earned after 6 years for part A. PRT. That's all there was to it. And part B is even easier than that, actually. Less of a calculation. This is asking for my return on investment, total value, right? Which is my interest that I earned, the bonus for lending my money out, plus the principal that I initially invested. I'm going to get that back as well. So I add those two together. I've got a principal of, or sorry, let's start with interest first. $2869.74 plus a principal amount of $26,075, giving me a total of $5,544.74. That would be my total value or my total return on investment at the maturation. Maturation is just the end of the investment. All right, that's it for series one. It's pretty straightforward. You just need two equations, and you're off to the races solving for interest and ROI. Then we move into series two, and it looks a lot scarier than it really is. The big change here is we now have two different investments. X marks the spot, which will denote as investment X, and we have living on the edge, which will denote as investment Y. They both have different amounts invested in and different rates of return or interest rates that we're earning through them. All right, let's kind of break this down then. This is actually just a one-part question. There's no A and B. It's the total interest received at the end of the investment. All right, so I'm actually just looking for, all right, interest, which is PRT. All right, here though, however, we have two investments. All right, so I actually need to do this twice. Once for X, using all the values for X, and once for Y. PY, RY, T. All right, it looks like, yeah, we're good to go. And then we will add these together. And that's going to be my total interest. All right, so let's start with investment X. Investment X, this is the marks the spot. Reba is investing a principal amount, that's my P, of $1,597. And she's multiplying this by her semi-annual, so that's kind of key. And it's a percent, so I always divide by 100. So it's actually going to be 0.0321. And I'll do the unit conversion right here. This is semi-annually, so I need to multiply it by 2. Okay, and I'll make a little note. This is because it's semi-annual. Semi-annual means that you're receiving interest every half year or 2 times per year. All right, so semi-annual interest of 3.21%, and she's investing for 2 years. All right, I can put that all in my calculator. I will just do that right now. 1597 times 0.0321 times 2 times 2. She's earning $205 and approximately 5 cents. I'm going to leave some extra significant digits until the end of the question. Do the same thing again for my second investment, living on the edge. Investment Y. Living on the edge, she's investing a little bit more, 23,000. Well, quite a bit more. Yeah, 1,500 to 23,351. And again, we need to be careful about the wording of our interest rate. All right, this is quarterly, 4 quarters in a year. So I need to multiply this interest rate of 0.0179, by 4. Okay, take the interest rate, divide it by 100. And quarterly means that I earn interest 4 times per year. So we've got semi-annual, twice a year, quarterly, 4 times a year. You might also earn interest monthly, which is 12 times a year, or daily, 365 times a year. All right, make sure you've got a list of those as you're working through these investment problems. All right, and we are doing this for the same amount of years since they didn't specify otherwise. We'll always use the equal time in both accounts so that we know the total after the 2 years. So let's throw it in the calculator. 23,351 times 0.0179 times 4 times 2 years. Quite a bit more, makes sense. I have a larger principal amount that I invested. So I'm earning $3,343 $0.86 with some extra significant digits. Then the last step is to add these together. Total interest is interest from X plus interest from Y, 205.05, and my significant digits I'll keep in my calculator, plus $3,343.86. And again, I'll keep an exact value and just round at the very end. I'm going to add those two values together to get $3,548.92 as my total interest from both accounts at the end of the investment or at maturation. All right, so a little bit different, looks scarier than it is. It really comes down to just one equation, doing it twice and adding it together. That is series 2. All right, one more series, which is fair game for your credit card and investment quiz. Not as a bonus question. This is series 3, and it's almost the exact same as series 2, except that it is asking for the total value at maturation rather than the total interest. Total value, all right, at maturation, at the end of it, total value is the return on an investment. It's the initial amount you put in plus all the interest you earn. So let's break this down. Once again, we have an X and a Y. This is my principal I'm investing into account X. All right, so maybe I will start by calculating my interest on investment X, PX, RXT. I already have PX. That's the amount Delia is investing, and X marks the spot. $3,489. This is yielding 1.04 monthly. $1.04 becomes 0.0104, and this is times 12. I'm doing it 12 times in a month.